Okay, today we're working on multiple step equations. This is section 3.3. So solve an equation by combining like terms. That means that we need to look at both sides of the equation before we do any adding or subtracting to the other side to make sure that we have everything combined that could be combined. On this left side, we have 8x and 3x, which can combine to 5x. And then this is just a two-step equation like last section. Add the 10 to both sides, and then we have 5x equals 30. Divide the 5, and x is 6. You can always plug that 6 back into the original to make sure you have the right answer. So we should never get the wrong answer in these kind of problems. Okay, using the distributive property. I know that's not everybody's favorite, but we need to do the distributive property on the side if it's there before we can combine any like terms or do any addition subtraction. So we need to multiply that 2 into everything in the parentheses. Now this is looking a lot like the last question. We have x terms. Combine. Subtract 12. Divide both sides by 9. And x is 3. Check your solution. That is telling you that you can always check your solution to make sure you get the right answer. So 7D combining. Subtract 4 from both sides. Divide both sides by 7. It's 4. This one we need to distribute. Combine the W's. Subtract both sides by 12. Divide both sides by 5. This one is kind of challenging. We need to make sure we're careful on distributing a negative 2 into the parentheses. So 6x minus 2x and minus 2 times minus 5 is positive 10. Combine our x's. Subtract 10. Divide by 4. This is 9. And plug that right back in to make sure you got it right. Okay, multiplying by a reciprocal to solve an equation. Now this looks like a typical distributive property problem. You can certainly do that and you will get the correct answer. My recommendation to you is to get rid of that fraction before you distribute it in because you're going to have a harder problem using fractions. So instead of going through the whole thing and multiplying 3/2 into the left side, I'm going to multiply both sides by 2/3 because that would get rid of that fraction right away. Then on the left side we have 3x plus 5 equals negative 16. Subtract 5 from both sides. Divide by 3. And x is negative 7. Which we can of course plug back in to check. So these three examples, what you want to do instead of distributing that fraction is multiply by the reciprocal. So when you do that on the first one, you're going to get z minus 6 equals 16. Add 6 to both sides, and that's 22. On part B, multiplying the other side by 5/2 will give you 25. Subtract 4. Divide by 3. Multiplying the 28 by negative 5/4 will give you negative 35. Add 1 to both sides. That's 4a equals negative 34, which means this one's not going to turn out very nice. Negative 34 divided by 4 is 8.5. And now we're using calculators, so we can easily figure out what that is. A flock of cranes migrate from Canada to Texas. The cranes take 14 days, which is 336 hours, to travel 2,500 miles. The cranes fly at an average speed of 25 miles per hour. How many hours of the migration are the cranes not flying? So we're going to use the distance formula again. Distance equals rate times time. Hopefully we're comfortable with that one by now. We are traveling 2,500 miles. Our rate is 25 miles per hour. And the time is what we're concerned with now. We have 336 hours. We want to know how many of those They're not flying, so we subtract the x from the parentheses. Distribute that 25 into the parentheses, so 2,500 equals 8,400 minus 25x. Subtract 8,400 from both sides. And we get negative 5,900 equals negative 25x. Divide by negative 25. And x is 236 hours of not flying. And that was all we needed to do for section 3 multi-step equations.